Today I've got a really great video of just Piers Morgan totally destroying and schooling grifter Konstantin Kisin on his own podcast. It's actually a strange timeline we're in where Piers Morgan is actually right and really great at arguing his points. So let's get straight into the video.
As you're saying. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, and it's just we're exploring the arguments. Why you've used the phrase indiscriminate bombing repeatedly? Why do you say it's indiscriminate?
I'll give you an example. Say they get information there's one Hamas terrorist. Right? I saw Dave Smith use this analogy, so let me give him the credit for it. If somebody murdered one of your family, okay? Horrible hypothetical, but let's assume this has happened. And you get told that one of the people who was responsible is living in a tower block with 150 people in it. Do you think it's justified to go and blow up the whole tower block and kill 149 innocent people as you kill the one person who is responsible for the loss you suffered?
There's a calculation in the laws of war where there has got to be some proportionality. There's got to be some taken of account.
Do you think there's been any proportionality now in Israel's response?
Well, what
I mean, 1,200 people got killed.
What I'm asking you
it's over the 7th. We're now up to.
Kisin can never answer a question, can he? That's the problem. He's so slimy and slippery. Just answer the question because it's indefensible. Like, clearly, why? Just ask the question. Well, why have so many innocent people been killed in Gaza? If there's not indiscriminate bomb, if they're precise, why have so many children been killed? Of course he won't answer that question. But, like, maybe he should try.
Maybe as many as 100,000.
But Piers, with all respect, that's a terrible argument. Because,
is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
That's a terrible argument.
I don't think it is.
It is, because way more Germans were killed at the end of World War II than British people were killed, and yet we bombed Germany into the ground because we were defeating them, right? I think that is a terrible argument, but I'm trying to find out why you say it's indiscriminate. Indiscriminate means they don't care if they're just bombing a civilian building, they're just trying to flatten Gaza. Is that what you think is happening?
70% of Gaza has been flattened.
Yes.
In what way would you not think that suggests a degree of indiscriminate bombing?
The reason that people would challenge the idea of it being indiscriminate, for example, Andrew Fox is.
He just can't answer a question, can
I mentioned, who has a very nuanced view of this, as we found out. He was saying that when he was in Gaza, what he saw was that Hamas adapted their tactics as the war went on, and when they realized that the Israeli IDF was going house to house, they then did the evacuation themselves. They pulled the civilians out and then booby-trapped every single building. So the destruction of a lot of buildings is evidence of the fact that a lot of them are booby-trapped, and that's why they're being destroyed.
I'm sure some of them were.
He made the point that more bombs have been dropped on Gaza than the number of people who've been killed in Gaza, which kind of tells you that it's.
But we don't know how many people have been killed because they won't let journalists and human rights organizations go in and investigate. So they don't actually know.
His argument, not indiscriminate. So that's the only reason I'm asking. And I'm genuinely just wondering.
I read some of the 5-6 times as many bombs have been dropped in totality than the total power of the 2 nuclear bombs dropped in Japan. I mean, what is indiscriminate? To me, you can argue that indiscriminate means you don't care at all. I wouldn't go as far as that.
Okay.
But I would say that the way they have gone about targeting sometimes
like sniping children, like killing them when they're trying to get aid, they're trying to get food. I mean, that's pretty indiscriminate, right? Again, 100,000, 200,000, maybe way more people have been killed. Like, if this is anywhere else on the planet, Kisin would be like, yeah, this is unacceptable. You know, crime against humanity, genocide. But because it's the Palestinian people, no, he's not interested.
Individual members of Hamas that they believe are in a cafe and they just blow the whole cafe to pieces. That shows in my opinion, a reckless disregard for civilian life that is around that one person. And again, I come back to the Hezbollah thing. Why is it that they can target Hezbollah and dismantle Hezbollah in such a brilliantly sophisticated surgical strike manner, which does not involve destroying Lebanon or wiping out 100,000 Lebanese people, killing 20,000 Lebanese children? Why is it they're capable of that there, but they're completely incapable of any other war strategy here, when most people believe, who know Hamas, that this was all part of Hamas's plan, that they knew when they did what they did, this is what would happen.
Being sleep deprived messes with everything. Reaction time, memory.
It's interesting because, as you know, I'm someone who's always been... Look, I've never even described myself as pro-Israel because I
oh my God, he's such a coward, isn't he? He's such a fucking coward. I can't stand this guy. He's the ultimate grifter. Like, I'm not pro-Israel, even though I constantly talk about, you know, fucking lick Israel's arsehole. Like, I'm not pro-Israel, but you can't be now because he sees the writing on the wall. So it's like, I'm not pro-Israel, even though I'll argue in favor of Israel constantly and never criticize them. But I'm not pro-Israel. Pathetic.
I'm not pro-Israel. I just generally think, you know, you said earlier, we in Britain wouldn't tolerate this. I don't know about that, Piers. I wonder...
Yeah, we just commit a genocide. That's what we do. You know, that's what we do in response.
If we'd been attacked the way Israel attacked, what would you be going on TV and saying? Would you be calling for us to bomb the shit out of whoever did it?
Well,
I think so.
Let's go.
No, that's interesting. His tell there. I think so. And then in a moment they talk about the invasion of Iraq, and they're like, and then he's like, "Oh, I was always against it." Well, which one is it, Kisin? Like, you have nothing. This guy is an empty shell of a human.
So?
Well, let's go back to...
And I might be too.
Well, hang on. Let's go back to the illegal invasion of Iraq.
That's different. We were not attacked.
Oh, hang on. Our allies were, and our main ally, America.
Not by Iraq.
Well, no, that's the point. So I was editor of the Daily Mirror at the time. I led the media campaign in this country against the Iraq War. I did not think they had produced the evidence of weapons of mass destruction. I did not think Saddam Hussein was responsible for 9/11. It was obviously Al-Qaeda, which had originated from bin Laden in Saudi and so on. So I wasn't buying any of it. And turned out I was completely right. I'm not trying to win awards for prescience. I'm just saying...
We were against the war in Iraq as well.
During...
yeah, I'm sure you would have been at the time. Well, they weren't doing their podcast then. They were probably, you know, early 20s, like maybe a bit younger. Yeah, it'd be interesting if we could turn back time and see, would they actually be in favor of it at the time? Because a lot of people were. There's a lot of manufacturing of consent of the invasion of Iraq. And they are, you know, pretty much on the side of the establishment. So, yeah, interesting.
And that I campaigned very hard against it, even though my own brother was fighting in the war for the British Army, right? So it's complicated for my family, to put it mildly. And I felt very aggrieved for my brother that ultimately the reasons he thought he was fighting it turned out to be just bullshit. But the reason I think there are parallels there is you have the British people marched through central London, right out here, 1.7 million of them. The reason I know that number is because many of them are carrying Daily Mirror no war placards, okay? It was the biggest peacetime march ever against this war, and the British government went against it, and Tony Blair's legacy never recovered from that decision. But we did that because the people here recognised, I think in large numbers, that the government was not being honest with them about why we were doing this on behalf of America. And we ended up attacking and invading a sovereign democratic country not democratic. A sovereign country, not democratic. A sovereign Middle Eastern country. And the repercussions reverberated ever since, you know, with the ISIS and everything else that followed. So I think that you say the British people wouldn't.
But I'm saying something completely different.
Well, you know, but
let me paint a picture, and then you tell me
a
how.
picture.
Okay, fine.
IRA.
No, not IRA. Let's say there is
why not the IRA?
Because it's different.
Why?
Because the IRA were not invading.
Yes, yes, it's different. You're drawing analogies, Kisin.
In their thousands and
they were
raping
indiscriminately
people.
killing civilians.
Yes, they were, but
we didn't go and bomb Armagh, did we?
Terrorist.
We didn't.
No, I agree with you. I think a terrorist attack where a pub gets blown up and lots of people tragically get killed is very different to what happened in Israel on October the 7th. And the point I'm trying to make to you is if bands of foreign terrorists from an identifiable nearby location had invaded our country.
But again, that doesn't work either because the occupiers are occupying Gaza, West Bank. So you'd have to have an equivalent where you had some occupation and those people were resisting. But he wouldn't do that, would he? He wouldn't do that with India or South Africa or New Zealand, maybe America. Like he
killed over 1,000 people, wounded over 7,000, had dragged off women and grandparents and babies and held them in cages over the border. Would you not be demanding that Keir Starmer or whoever is the prime minister at that time do everything possible to get those people back, to destroy the people who did this? Wouldn't you?
Sure. And then when, 2 years later...
But again, the war on terror, has that worked? Like, he says, oh, we're against the invasion of Iraq, but do this. Like, you can't have it both ways. You literally can't have it both ways. You have to come to some kind of diplomatic reasoning. You have to, withdraw from the West Bank and Gaza. Like, it's incoherent.
Really. They hadn't got the hostages back. They had killed up to 100,000 people, including 2/3 of those at least being civilians, 20,000 plus children, and we had destroyed 70% of the country where these terrorists came from. Right? What do you think the British people would have responded with?
I don't know.
Remember, we attacked.
Oh my God, he's such a fucking coward. He's such a fucking. That's all he. I don't know. I can't answer the question. You know what the British public would not be happy, like they are not now, when we're funding and arming Israel and the slaughter of children. I can guarantee you, like people marched in 2003 in March against the illegal invasion of Iraq. They were not happy then. People aren't happy now. It's really actually has impacted our view on war. And the idea that somehow we'd do it again since Iraq and Afghanistan. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Literally, I'm not pro-Israel, but I will lick their arsehole. Pathetic.
Afghanistan, we know how the British people responded. They didn't like it.
Yes.
They didn't like Iraq, right? The British people do not respond to what they think is unfairness.
Americans liked Afghanistan. They had no problem. They did.
Not so much anymore.
They were, of course, 20 years later.
Right.
Oh my God. That's his argument. Fucking hell, that is weak even for Kisin. Americans like Afghanistan. Fuck me. This guy's a fucking clown.
Point is, when you are in that situation...
You can whip your people into thinking anything.
Well, I don't think Afghanistan people... I don't necessarily think it was it was done in the right way. I'm just saying...
Oh my God, he's such a coward. Yes, they were whipped up for it, especially in America. Yes, they were. There's a lot of Islamophobia whipped up, a lot of manufacturing consent of illegal invasions of Iraq and the invasion of Afghanistan. Come on, Kisin.
When you are attacked in the way that America was attacked on 9/11,
it's a perfectly reasonable question. I
think we would have been okay with it.
I don't think 2 years later the British public would be remotely happy with what is happening.
Of course they
I
are.
really don't.
I
really don't, and I do buy
Oh my God, he's such a coward.
into the explanation that some Israelis have put to me that the country is still in trauma. And that when people are feeling traumatized, they can often react in an irrational way to how they would normally. So
that's what I'm saying.
I do think what you're seeing is a massively How would you best categorize it? I don't want to offend people's sensibilities about the way I term this. I just think the reaction is massively disproportionate and it's fueled by rage and revenge. And I think that has played into the deliberate Hamas trap, which is this is what they wanted Israel to do.
It's counterproductive too at this
I think
point.
ultimately it's been counterproductive. Whether you support their right to do it, the right to continue doing it or not, no one can argue that it's worked. So if it hasn't worked, at some point you have to stop. Otherwise, you just carry on just killing people and making your country more and more isolated and loathed. And I don't want that for the Israeli people.
Piers, would you describe this as being a genocide now?
Yeah, what I said on that is certainly a lot of people like Smodrich talk in genocidal language. Mm-hmm. Certainly an unbelievable number of innocent people have been killed as they've gone after Hamas. Is it a genocide? We can't be sure until the international media are allowed in to see what's actually happened, is my argument. I'm not prepared to declare something a genocide based on what I see on TikTok. It is scandalous that the Israeli government...
Would you do that in different situations, though? Like, he spoke about Srebrenica, Rwanda. Like, there's been plenty of genocides since World War II. Like, I just think if it was in a different area, I think he would have, again, he said what Putin was doing in Ukraine was a form of genocide, and then he backtracked on that after, Israel have done what they've done. So it's, this is where I think in hindsight, Piers Morgan will be like, well, yeah, I should have known. I should have called it a genocide. I should have seen what it is. And to wait just for the legal conclusion misses the point. Like you can just be like, oh, I'm not going to condemn them until there's been a legal decision. Yeah, when conservative estimates of 100,000 people have been killed, I think it's fair to say that a part of a population, ethnicity, people have been genocided.
Continues to ban Western international journalists from going in. It's scandalous. It's unprecedented. We've never seen this. And what happened immediately after October the 7th? The Israeli government invited the world's media to the kibbutzes to see the mayhem.
But there is a slight difference because
there is.
Because when you invite people into the kibbutz, you're not putting journalists in physical danger.
They don't care about journalists.
How many journalists have Israel killed? 200. They don't give a shit about journalists.
Safety. They've already killed 250 plus Palestinian journalists in Gaza. There's no way anyone can argue to me that the Israeli government cares about the health and safety of journalists.
No, they don't care about the health and safety. They don't want to be blamed for them being killed. Ukraine doesn't allow journalists.
They don't care about being blamed for killing 250 Palestinian journalists. So
that's different. They're already there.
Well, it's fine, but
how is that different? How is that fucking different?
There's no other war zone where you've had a complete blanket ban.
In Ukraine, you can't go on the front line if you're a journalist. Front line. And all of Gaza is a front line.
Well,
it is.
It's not.
It is.
Of course it isn't.
What do you mean?
All of Gaza is not a front line.
It's a tiny area.
Unless you pretend it's a front line.
God. Tell me more. Maybe I'm misinformed.
I'll tell you what.
Yes, you are. He's a fucking idiot.
No, you're not misinformed, but I think that all the war correspondents I've talked to say this is unprecedented, right? They all say that there's only one reason the Israeli government doesn't want journalists into Gaza, because it doesn't want the world to see what it's been doing.
That's kind of,
But there's one way to prove it wrong.
But hold on.
Yeah, they wouldn't even let them take shots flying over Gaza, because you can just see the massive devastation and just complete flattening of Gaza. Like, already, Israel's a pariah across the world, and they see images like that and they go, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? Like, what accountability does Israel and Netanyahu and his government have?
It is, but the world is seeing what's happening in Gaza. Isn't exactly the way that you said. Everyone's got a camera phone now.
No, I don't think they are. They're seeing elements of it, but a lot of them have been killed. Journalists have been killed. They're not allowed in. Journalists aren't able to show the extent. If people did, we're seeing bits of it. We ain't seen fucking half of it, a quarter of it, an eighth of it. So yeah, if actually we were to see fully what was going on a year ago, plus 2 years ago, things maybe would have, maybe we wouldn't be at the place we are now.
They have, but that to me is not easily verified.
Every day, if you want to know what's happening in Gaza, there's no shortage of videos.
No, you can see what people are claiming is happening. You can't be sure about the veracity of this stuff.
Yeah.
So you need proper international journalists with great experience of war zones to go in and do their jobs. It will be the job of their own employers to decide about the risk assessment. They'll go with their own security teams, everything else. The idea the only journalists allowed in are pro-Israeli government journalists who go embedded with the IDF for a few hours and say, nothing to see here, Gov, is ridiculous. If you've nothing to hide, let them in. Yeah. Let them do their job.
Do you not think that they are terrified of the idea that, a member of CNN gets killed and then suddenly they've lost even more?
Rat's shit.
No, I don't think they care about the journalists necessarily. I think they care about the PR.
More journalists have been killed in...
No, they don't. They really don't. Israel don't give a shit. Do you think they care? 200 plus journalists. Do you think they give a shit? Do you think they're going, oh no, we need to neutralise this? They don't care.
More Palestinians than any other war in modern times.
I hear you. But those are Palestinian people who are already there. They're not going to be...
They're journalists.
Right. You're not hearing me. Just answer my...
What do you mean by that? The Palestinians are already there, so we don't give a shit about them. They're not real journalists. If they were Western, Americans have been killed, they don't give a shit either.
So I'm not trying to argue with you for the sake of arguing. I'm genuinely interested in your perspective. Do you not think that what Israel really cares about is the potential PR disaster that happens?
If they do, they are not dealing with their PR very well. They are really not bringing their best to like try and present the Israeli side. Like you hear them constantly on TV. Do you think they've got good PR? Like, can you ever have PR when you're committing a genocide? Like, not really.
If a member of CNN or the Daily Mirror or whoever gets killed in an airstrike because they happen to be standing next to something, or, as is also, I think you'd agree, likely, Hamas orchestrates some kind of event where that journalist is killed, and that is a PR disaster for Israel, and that's why they don't want journalists.
No, I don't.
Why not?
Just don't think that's remotely...
Do you not think that's a rational explanation?
No, for the simple reason they've already killed 250 Palestinian journalists. They don't care about journalists. They just don't want journalists...
But that's not a PR disaster.
They don't want the journalists to see what they're doing. So the big question then becomes, why? Why doesn't Netanyahu want journalists in Gaza to verify all these stories of starving Palestinians stampeding for fragments of food and getting shot dead on a daily basis? 1,000 plus now, according to almost every official body, have been killed in these food lines, right? And the belief is it's the IDF killing them. Well, there's one way to verify this. Let the journalists go and investigate and do their job. I think we're going to uncover, in answer to your point, I think we're going to uncover a lot of war crimes at the end of this, which will be a stain that Israel, because of its government's actions, may find extremely hard to ever wash away. And I think that's a tragedy for Israel, who had everyone's support, not everyone's support, let me clarify that, who had broad support internationally after October the 7th, with, unfortunately, a lot of appalling. I mean, I remember walking down Kensington High Street near the Israeli embassy a day after, and there were large numbers of people in the street, cheering and all this.
Celebrating.
They were celebrating. It was sickening, right? So it brought out a lot of anti-Semitism, which was disgusting. It made Jewish people's lives less safe, which was disgusting. But I would argue now that the actions of the Israeli government, the longer this goes on, are having the same effect. I think they are leading to a rise in anti-Semitism, and they are leading to a rise in less safety for Jewish people around the world. So, again, I think they've played into Hamas's trap. And I think that's a great shame. And they should stop it. This war should just be stopped. And they should just politically end this. No one thinks Hamas can come back. I mean, no Palestinian guest I've had thinks Hamas will ever govern again in any way. So that's all been agreed by the Arab countries. So for God's sake, stop the killing, get everyone together, get Arab pressure now to help sort this. But this idea that Israel can simply kick every Palestinian out of Gaza and take it over, that should send a shudder down everyone's spine.
Well, I can't imagine the international community would allow that to happen, Piers.
It's not doing a lot to stop it.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll end on that note. They're really not, are they? So how are we in this timeline where Piers Morgan is kind of talking more sense than Kisin, which isn't really hard, let's be honest. Let's be honest here. Like, again, I'm not really a big fan of Piers Morgan. He is a grifter. I don't think he necessarily cares. But one thing he does see is the writing on the wall. He sees what's happening in Gaza, and he sees that there is no excuse. End the occupation. Make Netanyahu accountable for his war crimes and genocide, and come to some kind of solution. There has to be a two-state solution, a one-state solution. Unlikely, both unlikely, but something has to happen. This has to be the point now where we go, okay, what is the solution? And it can happen, but there has to be the political will of America and the UK and Europe to guide this. At the moment, that isn't happening. So what's going to happen next? I have no idea, but it's not looking good. So tell me your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next video.